This podcast is part of the Deluxe Edition Network. To find other great shows on the network, head over to deluxeeditionnetwork.com. That's deluxeeditionnetwork.com.
If your friends are nerdy and you are nerdy too, I want to talk to you. Friends Talking Nerdy.
Welcome to Friends Talking Nerdy, part of the Deluxe Edition Network. Head to deluxeeditionnetwork.com to find out about all of the lovely shows on the Den. This is Tim the Nerd, and joining me as always, we have Professor Aubrey, and this week, I'm going to talk to you quite knowledgeably as someone who spent the weekend on the couch playing video games about what to do when you don't feel up to anything.
Oh, that does seem like a good topic for you.
Yes. Tossed a little self-deprecating joke in there, but yeah, but anyway.
I'll deprecate you as well. We'll do joint deprecation.
All right. We'll save that for later. You know? But anyway, we are going to be diving once again into an article that you can find on Psychology Today. If you go to our show description, you'll be able to click the link and it will bring you directly there. But the article in question is called What to Do When You Don't Feel Up to Anything by Jennifer Gerlach, LCSW.
Licensed clinical social worker.
All right. I knew that. I was just making sure if you did.
You're right.
That's right. I totally knew. And yeah, and if you believe that, folks. Anyway.
I got some property to sell you. Some oceanfront property to sell you in Tennessee.
Yeah, like the Arizona Bay apartments in California falls into the sea. But anyway, Bill Hicks reference there. When a person's depressed, they don't have the motivation to really get up and do anything.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the symptoms of depression, right? Is that you lose interest in things that used to provide you with pleasure. Whether that's gardening or looking at art or watching TV or playing video games, like they don't give you the same joy that they maybe did at one time or could if you weren't suffering from depression.
There's that with depression. With anxiety, you can definitely have similar things occur because at the end of the day, when you're like anxious or introverted and stuff like that, it does become a lot easier over time to go with the easy option of, I know what to expect at home, and you can't have that same type of expectation once you step out of the house.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what we wanted to do here is go through these bullet points and talk about them, communicate about them, because especially the more of these articles that we read, it's like a lot of the stuff that they say seems like it's stuff you should already know, already common sense type stuff. But what I can tell from my experience when it comes to articles that we've read that have related to that, it's just like the easy stuff is still pretty hard to accomplish if your brain is not in the right mindset to get up and do something.
Yeah. And sometimes it's like a situation that I describe as fake it till you make it. Like sometimes you, with a lot of effort and probably a lot of support from other people, can do something, right? One thing, whatever it is, you can have a goal to do that one thing. And I think that becomes a positive feedback loop because you do the one thing and you're like, oh, that either wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be or gave me pleasure. And so I'm going to try to do that again and sort of get re-interested in things. But, it's chemicals in your brain that are impacting that as well. And sometimes you can't really control it. And people who have severe depression talk about staying in bed for weeks and not taking a shower and not eating properly and,
That can happen.
Can be really bad. So maybe we're not talking about people with clinical depression,
Yeah. I mean, there are people on the depression scale that I don't think this article is referring to.
Right.
Higher up on the depression scale, you definitely you maybe follow some of the steps, sure, but you also need to see a doctor. That is the important thing.
Yes.
Before we ramble on, how about you dive into the first bullet point here?
First is go slow. If your mind or body is giving you a signal that you're not up to something, at least this is a sign that it may be wise to proceed with caution. If you do decide to keep going, prioritize what needs to be done right away. It's okay if you don't finish everything in one day, especially if you're fighting a depressive episode. Yes, a lot of times when we're trying to conserve our energy because we think that is what we need to do, we need to relax by not doing anything, that can interfere with your momentum to get things done. So I like this, prioritization. I think that's really important. And I find it really difficult to do. And so, it's important to reach out for help with things that you don't feel like you can do on your own. But I think this number one, is really about not losing your momentum by judging yourself for not being busy all day, right? If you're trying to do one or two things, go slow, accept that you're going slow, and that will build longer term habits.
Yeah, I mean, if your goal is to like reintegrate back into society, you don't have to dive into the deep end of the pool figuratively in terms of going out of your own comfort zone to get this experience, because a lot of times if you go that route and you can overwhelm yourself, and then from there it becomes a little bit harder the next time you want to go out. But I do think that this point here did walk a good tightrope in terms of acknowledging when it's okay to slow down, when it's okay to say, okay, I'm going to go to what my limits are, but still going.
Right.
Yeah, because it is important to make that effort that is within your comfort zone. Because again, if we are talking like a social situation type of deal, like not everybody has to be an extrovert. You can be comfortable meeting up with one person once a month out in public or doing whatever. And if that's your speed, then that's your speed. The point is to still have that link, because get the act of getting up and getting out of your house and not just letting the thoughts in your head or the chemicals in your head do their thing. When you have that distraction, things can go a lot better for you.
Absolutely.
All right.
How about the next one?
The next one. Okay. Number 2, take breaks. It's okay to take breaks. On days when you feel low mentally, you may choose to plan some extra breaks in your day. These breaks might include things like time away from people, moments outdoors, or a small chat with a friend. What is a break to one person might look different from what is a break to another. Again, very, very important to follow that advice. And it seems simple, but a lot of people don't end up doing it. Again, it's like everybody making New Year's resolutions at the start of the year. They just keep pushing and pushing, and then they have one day to where things don't go right, and then they're done because they think they failed. When it's okay in terms of like the dieting and whatnot. It's okay to have a day to where you say, "Screw it, I'm gonna have something tasty." In terms of like greasy food or whatever, you can have those types of things so long as you continue on, with the health. I think you don't want to beat yourself up, but you also, I guess, do gotta you gotta challenge yourself with the breaks as well. I think we talked about this last week with the pushing yourself. You do, because it's easy to get in a rut, whether you're dealing with depression, anxiety, or whatever, and that rut can just be the rut of sameness, because sameness may not be the most exciting thing in the world, but it's still peaceful compared to the unknown. And if you can find a way to give yourself those breaks, I think you again make the process of expanding yourself a little bit easier.
Sure, absolutely. I think, it's really important to take breaks no matter what you're doing. I'm not great at it. I think you can take mental breaks as well. And that's what, the article says, having a chat with a friend or taking time away from people is sort of calming. And that's really what you want. It's not breaks like stand up and walk around. It's like mental breaks.
And I would say, too, with something like this, I would follow the advice that Stephen King gives to people when it comes to reading, because he says a lot of people think that in order to be a quote unquote successful reader, you must etch out 2 hours of your day where you're sitting and reading. And he's like, no, no, think about the times you go to the bathroom, have a book with you. If you're at the grocery store and you're in line waiting, that you may only get 2 to 3 minutes of time to be able to read, but that's 2 to 3 minutes. And I think you can take that same philosophy with breaks as well, because yeah, maybe it's not going to be long. Maybe you say to yourself, I'm going to give myself 5 minutes to look at silly videos on TikTok. That's 5 minutes you gave yourself.
Yeah. It's what makes the days not just labor.
Yes, yes, the American way, the American dream is a joke. Anyway, how about you dive into the next point?
Yeah, the American dream is a joke.
Yeah.
So number 3, plan things to look forward to.
Such a positive outlook today. Thank you, Headache. Anyway,
If you can, try to plan something to look forward to. This doesn't have to be extravagant. It could be a little thing like taking the stairs or watching squirrels. It might also be something like lighting some incense at the end of the day. Throw in rewards throughout your day and intentionally be present for these. Yeah. I mean, I think this is an interesting list, honestly, because I think these are things that you and I are terrible at.
true. I think of those apps that are, work with people on situations just like this, but in terms of trying to take normal everyday things and give you that dopamine hit of having an achievement
Mm-hmm.
throughout out the day. I mean, those can definitely, those seem like that they can do that, but the cynical person in me would just not really follow through.
Well, like if I knew, okay, it's an app and it's artificial intelligence that's in, designed to make me feel a certain way. And it isn't real social support. It isn't real people caring for me. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, there is one I know of that gives it like video game type achievements if you do something and or I guess they have a list or you can add to the list, but it could be something as, you did the dishes, ding, you get an achievement, you get a gold star or whatever, they do for achievement in that particular game. I think you build up points or something, and the dopamine hit of, like any video game, of reaching a particular level and surpassing it is what is supposed to rework the thinking in your head
Mm,
of this is a tedious task.
It's the gamification.
Yeah, yeah. So that's one thing, but this could also just mean setting an event for yourself. If there's like this town has some great options for little stuff that's going to pop up out of nowhere. Like at the end of September, we talked about this off air, but Lynn Margulies, who was the partner in of Andy Kaufman, she's going to be in town when they show her the movie that she directed about Andy's time in wrestling called I'm From Hollywood.
Mm,
And that's something to put on the calendar to look forward to.
yeah.
That is it's a small event in Portland here, but little things like that to treat yourself. And as we talked about too, seeing Monday Night Raw is an event in the future that it is definitely there to look forward to. So yeah, it's reworking your brain. And I think you mentioned it before too. It's finding ways to take what is normally considered everyday monotony and trying to give it a little spruce for you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I find things that I'm looking forward to, events that I'm looking forward to are very motivating, say at work when, I'm okay with working ahead or working a little harder when I'm about to go on vacation, for example.
Well, speaking of that, how about I dive into number 4 here?
Yeah.
All right. Spread tasks over a few days. It's okay to pace yourself. Not feeling up to doing a task in one day is not the same as not feeling up to starting it at all. If there is a particularly daunting task, break it down into smaller pieces. Maybe try to do just one piece. As someone who has written a book, I get where this is coming from because when you just have the idea for a book, there's a dread that you get as a writer thinking, I got to get all of those thoughts in my head onto paper. How? But if it is possible to do that, if a guy like me can do it, you can do it too. And it's just making sure that, yeah, you do break it up. You give yourself little, like writing goals, keep them short, small, achievable, but increase it over time. Like if you give yourself a 1 page a day, minimum, then if that's working for a week or two, then bump it up to 2 pages. Which is, again, as we spoke earlier, going slow in everything, but spreading tasks, especially if it's a big task, it makes more sense to be able to look at the situation that you're facing and say, I can do this now, I can do this at a later time, and I can do this even later than that, and scheduling it properly. Because yeah, there are some things that you're just not going to be able to do in one day.
That's right. Sure. Of course, there are things you're not going to be able to do in one day.
Mhm.
And having that structure around it is helpful to remember to do every day and to get in a habit of doing every day. I think, of course, the hardest part is starting a new project and committing to doing a new project. Like I think about when I used to do more craft projects or sewing projects, you had to invest in those activities. You had to get the stuff to make the thing and decide how you were going to make it and then actually start putting it together and then fix out whatever problems you ran into. It's like there was a whole process and you had to really commit to it to begin with. And I think other things are like that too. Like you have to commit to it. And that commitment doesn't mean you're going to work on it for 4 hours every day. It just means maybe once a week you're going to do it on a certain day at a certain time. And doing a little bit is better than not doing anything.
Yeah, I mean, because doing a little bit may make the whole process a little slower, but at least you're making progress.
Yeah.
All right. How about you dive into the last point?
Okay, here's the last point. Start the day with something that gives you energy. For some, this might mean playing music on your phone while you're still in bed, looking for the energy to wake up. To others, it might be morning walk. Beginning your day with something that gives you energy can jumpstart you through the fog. That is right. I love stretching, I love walking, and I love to do those things at the earlier part of the day because it does make me feel better for the rest of the day.
Over the past few months, I've had the luxury of being able to walk to work every day, and I think that has helped me out in a lot of ways. I still do a lot of walking and lifting and stuff at work, so I do usually come home pretty sore. 47 is no joke, people. But yeah, taking that time to walk and having my ear pods in and just listening to music kind of just pumps you up for that day. So it gets the blood going too. I guess in a way you could say that's probably one way that's getting the cortisol out of your body too, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Flushing it,
Yep. So definitely,
replacing it with better hormones.
yeah, yes. So starting the day with some sort of energy obvious. Yes, that is a positive way to get your day going in a good mood. Now, by energy, does that mean 12 cups of coffee? No. 6, no, 1 or 2 maybe, but you know what I mean. It's an activity, I guess, that something to just get your brain going and yeah, feeling more positive, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, these are all kind of commonsensical. And, this is one of them. It's almost like when they say, the best way to improve your mental health is to, have gratitude for things and like keep a gratitude list and have a goal of being more thankful for things. And you can definitely see how something simple like that can actually influence your mood. But none of those things feel as simple as just presenting them in this way, right? Like, start the day with something that gives you energy. Like I said, one of the symptoms of depression is that you don't enjoy the things you used to enjoy. And, you don't have any energy. And so you really have to break through that level of depression before any of these things make sense. So I just want to make sure that our listeners understand that we understand that there is a level of depression and a level of anxiety that you're not going to fix by giving yourself energy in the morning or thinking positive or having gratitude. All of those things might help, but they're not going to, fix the entire problem.
Yeah, yeah. I would feel like a god if like one podcast episode was able to solve all of that for people. Like we said, this is more just common sense stuff, but a lot of times the common sense advice that you usually hear around topics like this, people tend to ignore it, and also they tend to get cynical. Like I mentioned, like you hear some of this stuff, and like you sit there and like you're told to write a gratitude list. Like, why am I grateful to them? I don't, there's always that little voice in your head that's always telling you that this is just stupid. Why are you doing this? You should just be on the couch, man.
I mean, that can happen, obviously, as you're describing it as something that happens to you. I've, definitely, when choosing things to do, it's easiest to choose to take a nap. Is that actually what I need to do? Is that going to give me energy? No, it's not. It's going to lead to me sleeping some more, probably. So I find if I stay awake and do something like go on a walk, or that's a good go-to for me, is go on a walk.
But I would even challenge you to kind of think back to one of the points we talked about, though. I mean, a good nap, and I've seen you nap before. I think you are a responsible napper in the fact that you always have an alarm set.
Mm-hmm.
So why couldn't a 1 hour, 2 hour, even a 3 hour nap be a break? It is refreshing your body, and as long as you're doing a responsible thing by having the alarm set, that could be a break for you. Now, is that something that you would have the luxury to do every day? Of course not. But I would just challenge you, I guess, to think of the positives.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a fair challenge.
All right. Well, any other thoughts on that article?
Not really. I don't mean to be so down on the Psychology Today articles lately. I feel like I've been kind of critical. I guess it's written for the public, like the general public, and it sort of oversimplifies things. And I think in order for your work to actually resonate with more people, it has to be kind of general.
Yeah, I mean,
If it's specific to you, it's a memoir or a novel. It's not.
well, I think it's like we said at our last recording, like this is the condensed Reader's Digest version of psychological discussions. I'm sure there are other magazines and other websites out there that will have far more detailed information about this very topic. I think, again, for our purposes, it's just sometimes talking about the common sense stuff is important because too often people do overlook that. And I'm guilty.
Oh, sure. Me too.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, we are not doctors. We're not clinicians. We're not offering here any medical advice. We're just talking about life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just, tips and tricks about life.
Yeah. Yeah. And as always, too, like if for whatever reason you feel the need to seek a medical professional for any sort of psychological issues, please do it. Please take advantage of it. I mean, more people should see mental health professionals as what they are. The very equivalent of a
Medical doctor.
Medical doctor.
And that's changed a lot really since we were kids. in that, part of Obamacare was insurance companies have to treat mental health the same way that they treat regular health. Same thing with eyes, like eye examinations are medical. Didn't go far enough, in my view, to include dental work. But maybe that's coming. Like maybe someday dental work will be covered by your medical insurance.
And that's the thing that's hard to keep in mind when it comes to political stuff. That's a lot of times to get the big wins, you got to have very small wins, along the way, along the process. And yeah, like I don't. I think within our lifetimes, probably near the end of our lifetimes, but within our lifetimes, I think we will see something better in terms of healthcare coverage for the citizens of this country. Like, I think there are just too many examples of the benefits of what they call socialized medicine can do for the average person. That it's I hope I'm not wrong on that.
Yeah. I hope you're not wrong.
Well, how about we take a brief moment here to let one of our friends at the Deluxe Edition Network hawk their wares.
Sounds good. Let's hear it.
All right. Sit tight. Join us on the flip side.
Flippity floppity floop.
All up in your face.
Have you ever watched the news and wished that you could see something more positive, or looked online and saw all the aggravation and anger and hatred out there and thought to yourself, why can't I just see more positive things in my life? Hi, I'm Mike Rathbun, and I'm the host of the Kindness Matters podcast. Every week, we promise to bring you stories that will uplift you and motivate you and inspire you to see the kindness and be the kindness that this world needs more of. Tune in, the Kindness Matters podcast with me, your host, Mike Rathbun.
Professor Aubrey has a package in her hands that we have to say is quite delicious.
It is, Tim. It's Brazil from Coffee Bros. An amazing coffee with notes of cocoa and cherry candy.
Nice.
Delicious.
Indeed it was. Like you and I, we both drink coffee in very different ways. I need it, 9,000 degrees hot. And me, I make my coffee and then put in as many ice cubes as I can. I'm like the guy from Clerks, what am I supposed to drink this coffee hot? Type of guy. But you tried it your way, I tried it my way, and we both really enjoyed the flavor of this particular flavor of coffee.
Absolutely. It is a relatively new roastery in New York, New York. Those little town blues.
Yep.
Taking the Coffee Bros away.
Exactly.
Anyway, they're relatively new. They've been roasting since 2019.
Yes, but they do have great connections around the world in the coffee growing areas to be able to get the best beans, to be able to give their customers the best product. And you, our friends at home, if you go to coffeebros.com and you order your own batch of this coffee or any other of the delicious brands of coffee that they have on their website, in the promo code spot, you put FTN10, we're going to be able to save you 10%.
That's right, 10%. It's going to be like $1.50. It's going to be awesome.
But that's what friends are for.
That's what friends are for.
That's right.
$1.50 when you need it.
Exactly. I mean, you won't be able to get on the city bus, but you will be able to save some money to be able to get some wonderful coffee. Again, head to coffeebros.com and in the promo code box, put in FTN10 and you will be able to have some delicious coffee.
Yep.
Drink away, people. All right. Welcome back, everybody. Before we wrap things up this week, as we record this, you are a few days away from making one hell of an amazing journey.
Yes, that is right. It is only 6 days until Burning Man. 6 days. I have a lot of work to do at my work. I have a lot of work to do here on my packing. And then get to spend a lot of time with a lot of gear. And then a couple weeks of having fun. And then a lot of gear and a lot of unpacking.
It'll be interesting to see the cat's reactions once you bring everything back. I forgot what they were last year. They probably just did the usual climbing on stuff. I don't remember like the alkaline dust getting everywhere in the house or anything.
No, usually by the time, it goes through the process of being in the van for 9 hours, it kind of, all the dust ends up in the van.
Yeah. Well, what are you looking forward to at Burning Man this year? Because we've already discussed the fact that you'll be volunteering with enough hours to be able to have most of your food taken care of. You'll have a canvas tent with air conditioning on the inside. So when you are not chilling yourself or eating the wonderful food or doing the volunteer work, what are you looking forward to?
Well, I am looking forward to DJs. So I love electronic dance music, and there's going to be a lot of it at Burning Man. And they're really good DJs. And there's actually a guide to music at Burning Man that comes out every year. That's a curated list of all the exciting musical activities. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited to ride my bike on the playa again. It's a great place to ride bikes because it's completely flat. There's like dust that you get mired down in that's hard to bike through, almost like pitfall, where you're running along in the pitfall and you fall in the quicksand.
Mm.
It feels like that. Like all of a sudden you just, no matter how fast you pedal, your wheels are just not moving. I mean, they're moving, but they're not propelling you forward because they're just rotating in the dust.
Yeah, zoom, 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 zoom.
So, looking forward to biking, looking forward to music, looking forward to dancing, and looking forward to seeing friends that I only really see at burn events.
Oh, you're using the lingo now too. I'm a burner. I'm going to the burn event. Yeah, look at me. We all drink our kombucha with our pinkies out here. Well, I, for one, like I've mentioned, am definitely quite happy you're getting this experience again this year. And when you get back,
Yeah, go ahead.
you will have a lot of stories to tell our friends at home.
Absolutely. And the other thing I'm most excited about is the weather. So, looking at the weather report, it looks like it will be in the 80s and around 55 at night. This opposed to the 109 that it was in 2022. And the rain that happened last year, it should actually be really nice weather.
That's good to hear. I mean, you definitely deserve that, and like it's one of those deals. Like because I talked about it last year when you came back about watching the news and seeing all the footage from Burning Man. Is like, where's Aubrey? Where's Aubrey? And yeah, like you don't need that, but also too, like you mentioned, a lot of the people that you saw in the news clips that were had their vehicles stuck and they're probably still stuck there or something like that, did not prepare well, unlike you.
That's right.
Yeah.
And didn't just hunker down. They got freaked out and didn't just trust the process to work itself out, which ultimately is what happened.
Yeah. So you officially have more cojones than Chris Rock.
That's right. Or Diplo.
Yeah. Yeah. Diplo. You dip. They bolted. They were like, oh my God.
Yeah, they left like within the first 12 hours for sure. They left right when it started raining.
Yeah. Well, that is definitely fun to hear. So I can't wait for the stories.
Well, I can't wait to tell them.
Yes.
Can't wait to have the experiences that will birth them.
Right. Yeah, because too, based on the timing of the episodes, I think the one we're recording right now will probably be released by the time you get back home.
Okay. So then, I can do an update and let everybody know how it went.
Exactly. Exactly. But I have a correction I have to make.
Oh.
Because when I brought up on the episode, a couple episodes back, of the current music we're listening to, and I brought up Knocking on Heaven's Door from Bob Dylan and said that the first time I was really introduced to his music was with Guns N' Roses covering a song. That is not true.
Really?
Because the Traveling Wilburys were a thing.
Oh, right.
And Dylan is definitely quite interesting in the fact that, he does, like the Wilburys seemed weird for him because, even in the late 80s, he was already Dylan, and yet here he was doing, like essentially like 60s pop songs in the 80s.
Yeah, well, Bob Dylan is an incredibly adaptable person, obviously, from the way his career has careened into one genre to another. The Wilburys, for him, I think, demonstrates his profound connection to other musicians. And here was this group of really strong musicians, really great writers, and a chance to play with them. And I understand why Dylan took that opportunity.
Indeed. I mean, and
It's not like George Harrison wasn't a legend, or Roy Orbison wasn't a legend, or that other guy,
Jeff Lynne
Jeff Lynne.
from ELO.
Right, he's kind of the odd man out to me.
For American audiences, I can see that because ELO, their primary popularity was more, Europe, Great Britain type of deal. That's not to say they didn't have a footprint in the United States for people out there that may be listening right now that know a little bit more about ELO. But again, primarily popular overseas and not in America. Like Cheap Trick. Cheap Trick is an American band, but primarily their biggest market is in Japan.
Really?
It's always has been.
Interesting. I had no idea.
Yeah, like the album that kind of broke them to the big audience was their Live at Budokan album.
Oh, right.
Yep. So but that's the beauty of, I think, what the Traveling Wilburys did. And I think, if anything, a perfect example of what being a student of music is. And I constantly say student of music, and I don't think I've really clarified what I mean by that. To me, it's just simply, I think anybody can be a student of music. You don't have to play a musical instrument to do that. To me, it's all about finding out what influenced the people that you liked.
Mm.
Simple as that, really. And from there, whether it be, like finding out that, like, Black Crowes, Hard to Handle. I only found out recently that was an Otis Redding song. But, boom, more knowledge on my part, right?
Yeah.
That's what being a student of music is. It's going the extra mile to not just have music as it's on, yay, now it's not on, and I'm going in, I'm going to go off and do something else. Like, you have that desire to dive deeper, to find out what influenced your favorite musicians, and also try other stuff out too. Like, I did some research on Pat Smear because of the fact that with MTV Unplugged, when Pat Smear, if you don't know, was part of a punk band, I believe, called the Germs, and then was hired by Nirvana to take care of guitar duties so Kurt could more focus on singing or doing like lead guitar.
Mm-hmm.
And on the MTV Unplugged, he played the Buck Owens American.
Oh.
The Buck Owens American guitar, is specifically owned by Buck Owens, and apparently Pat Smear, from the punk band The Germs, is a big Buck Owens fan.
Interesting. Buck Owens is awesome.
He definitely is. Like, the more I find out about the guy, just like, I can stand by my distaste of Hee Haw. It was a bad show, as we've discussed many times. But like him, even Roy Clark, the face that most people would associate as the host of Hee Haw. If you've seen him play guitar, like, for technical ability, I put him up there with Hendrix.
Really?
He is that good.
You know what? He taught me guitar. I learned guitar using his big note songbook
All right.
that had little stickers that you'd put on the strings to tell you where to put your fingers to play a note or play a chord. And
Nice.
that is how I originally learned to play guitar.
Yeah, and like I said, I know, like, his public demeanor was more the comedian. He was always trying to be goofy
funny.
and be funny. But take a chance and watch a video of him just playing guitar. He can shred.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and I think that probably the two comes from, doesn't he have history in bluegrass?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, he's a country star.
Yeah,
He's definitely appreciated in the country world.
agreed. But being a student of music, that's what it means to me, I guess. It's that desire to just find out more and find out more and find out more. I'll throw out another oddball hit here. In the late 80s, before the Traveling Wilburys, George Harrison released an album called Cloud Nine, which was produced by Jeff Lynne. And the big track off of that was I've Got My Mind Set on You. That was a cover of an old R&B song. George Harrison didn't write that.
Wow.
Yeah, and the guy's name was James Ray.
Never heard of him.
Neither have I, but that's...
I mean, it's almost like, I'm very into remixes and mashups and stuff where they take existing songs and make them sound different, basically. It's kind of the same thing as covering other people's music.
It can be based on the artist. I mean, but we've talked about that before, too. I mean, there are some people that are just simply mechanics and can give you the same type of performance that the original singer did, and then you have singers that will make it their own.
Sure.
And, Harrison definitely belongs in that latter category.
Of course.
But that's what I meant by being a student of music.
Gotcha.
And that all has to do with my correction, because I was aware of Dylan's music beforehand. Just, it sometimes, like, his public persona is a little too stuffy from what it seems like he really is.
He's very private. I'd say he's one of the most private, famous people. Like, he got so famous so quickly that I think he kind of rejected being famous and was more an introvert, really. And so he's, you never hear anything about Dylan involved with, bad things happening in Hollywood or, doing dumb things while he was on tour. Like, you just don't hear people talk about Dylan that way.
Yeah, probably the only two dumb things that I think he did was appear in Dharma and Greg, the late 90s sitcom that I sent you the link to, and also write a song with Gene Simmons. But then again, that speaks to him. Like, I'm sure, I think we've even talked about him writing a song with Gene Simmons before. The fact that there are a lot of people that probably, due to Dylan's public persona, are scared to ask him to write something. So the fact that somebody, even as eclectic as Gene Simmons, gave him a call, I'm sure he probably was just intrigued and thought, why the hell not?
Yeah. I mean, that'd be fun, right? Totally new, different experience.
Yeah. But he didn't have to spit blood or anything. So there is that. Everybody has standards. But anything else you want to say to our friends at home before we wrap it up?
Just, be sure that you recognize the people in your life who support you and give them appreciation. That's a great thing to be grateful for, is the people who join us in our lives and make our lives worthwhile, really.
Yeah, these are wacky times we are living in this moment in history. So the sooner we can identify those people that are important to us and show them love and appreciation, the better.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. For the most electrifying professor in podcasting, each Monday we'll have something in this podcast space to entertain your ear holes. Until we meet again, we bid you adieu. Auf Wiedersehen. Subscribe to Friends Talking Nerdy
on YouTube Music, Apple Podcasts, Spotify,
or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Goodbye, darling.